To launch an integration system, we use the interface to run or launch the integration task from the related actions of the integration. This task can be done directly or it can be accessed by integration systems, related action item, and selecting launching an integration launch or schedule. So I'm trying to open up a workers integration. Let's see if we can run this. So we have discussed what are integration attributes, how we can customize them as per the requirement of the partner that we are working with or connecting with, the values that can be included, the integration maps, where billing can be our internal name of that field is billing, and they would like the vendor or partner would like to be BILL, or mailing to mail, remit to is remit, shipping is ship, tax reporting is tax, work from home is WFM, and such kind of mapping, such as for genders, we have female in our tenant. The vendor expects that we should send the value as F, male should be M, not declared should be N, and whichever mapping values that we need to update or amend for our integration to work successfully. We can do it through integration attribute, integration maps, and also we discussed the field override. So let's try to launch this interface. So we can go to integration system. Similar to EIB, launch and schedule. You can say select run now. And then we have some options available when we launch an integration, which are called the launch parameters. So let's go back to our deck. All right, to launch an or schedule an integration task has the following parameters: the integration itself, the organization, and the run frequency. So the integration, this parameter defines the integration system you wish to launch. Integration system currently have critical errors in the configuration, cannot be selected or cannot be run. If accessing this task via the related actions of an integration system, the integration parameters will be pre-populated. So if there are some values that are defined in the integration, such as effective date or as of effective date, or organization types, what to include, what not to include, that can be made part of the integration template. Organizations, if you intend to run the integration immediately, select the organization for which you want to run the integration for. So I'll explain in more detail what I mean by organization. This prompt varies depending on the integration process event and on your security access. The third parameter is the run frequency. So the run frequency parameters defaults to run now, which represents an ad hoc run at that moment. This would be considered a manual launch. Selecting any other frequency would be used to configure the selected. Selecting any other frequency would be used to configure a schedule launched. The scheduled frequencies are run once in the future: minute recurrence, hourly recurrence, daily recurrence, weekly recurrence, monthly recurrence. So you can set up the integration to run by itself with the parameters that you have predefined, and it will launch automatically based on the frequency. So after providing parameters to the launch/schedule integration task and clicking OK, you will be taken to the schedule and integration page. For core connector workers integration, there are 7 launch parameters. The core connector data launch parameter extracts records that are current as of the specified as of entry moment and effective date parameters. So let me show this to you. So you have these values like from effective date, as of entry moment, effective date, and as of entry moment, right? And why is it there? So the as of entry moment and effective date parameters extracts records that are current as of the specified values. And then you have an option to either send a complete full file of all the employee records, or the integration helps you uh, send the changes only within the file. For example, you have, say, 3,000 employees that you're trying to run the integration for, and you have already run it once with your vendor. So vendor has all the information. So just thinking on top of your mind, if you are going to run an integration, say next week again, do you really need to send all the 3,000 employees worker data? Because you have already done an integration successfully, they already have the data. So when such questions comes, then you use the change only file. And in order to run the change only file, Workday has a parameter of logging enabled, where it will log the output of each of your changes. And then when you run the next integration, it will, or we can select the specified entry moment and effective date parameters to only evaluate the changes from the last load, from the last integration until today, and just send the change file of workers. If somebody is a new hire, some of the workers had changes in their information. If somebody was terminated, if somebody was moved, or whatever the parameters of our integration are, such changes can only be sent through the integration as well. And Workday does it quite effectively well. And this becomes very handy when you have vendors asking for, say, initial load first, and then only sending the change details of your integration, of your population. So Workday does that effectively well, keeping in mind that if the logging is enabled for change detection. So if full file is not selected, then the extract includes only those records that are detected to have change in one or more output fields as compared to what was current as of the last successful as of entry moment and last successful effective date parameters. Launch schedule integration parameters. So what is as of the entry moment, effective date, last successful as of entry moment, and last successful effective date. So because we have not run this integration before, it does not have last successful as of entry moment. Okay. So do I want to restrict it by any organizations? For now, no. Exclude subordinate, I don't want to. Primary run is fine. Full snapshot. Workers, I want to include all the workers in this. I don't want to select a worker here. Exclude members or include members. So I want say from effective date, let's take 06/01/2021. And same as of entry moment 06/01/2021. And then I'll use today's date as effective date. Currently, I'm saying change detection is not selected. So I can say include changes entered since the last successful run, or include all changes in the effective date range. So currently I'm going to select include all changes in the effective date range. So while it's running in the background, so in addition to the core connector, date launch parameters, core connector worker provide 3 additional launch parameters under core connector worker integration configuration as follows. Now, do keep in mind that the core connector worker is a Workday standard template that they have created and provided to all the users within the tenant. So you can use that as the base integration template and configure it as per your needs through integration maps, through attributes, and through field overrides. So workers, this launch parameter enables you to restrict integration to only considering those workers selected in the list. This parameter is unset by default. Restrict results by organizations. This launch parameter enables you to restrict the integration to only considering workers within an organization as well as any subordinates. This parameter is unset by default. Full file. This launch parameter is used to extract all data regardless of how recently it was changed. Workers must still fulfill the eligibility rule to be included in the output. This parameter is unset by default. So when you're working with worker core connector, these are the 3 major attributes that would show up in your launch parameters within Workday. So let's look at the status of our integration. Similarly to EIB, if you recall, you'll have the integration process details, who was it initiated by, what is the current status, your integration or your parameters that you have defined. It's taking a bit longer than expected. So let me cancel this. Let me launch the interface again with a shorter date. So integration, launch, and now. So here is the run frequency that we are referring to, like run now, or if I want to have a frequency or schedule setup. So run now is always an ad hoc launch. And if I want to select any of the specific organizations I want to run this integration with, I can select that. All right, from effective date 09/01/2021. So that would be 1 month and include Awesome. So we have our integration completed. As you can see the status, it says completed on the top. There are 32 output files in here. When I look at the output, let's go back to the integration system. So we ran it for 1 day because it was taking a very long time. So I just finally ended up running it for 1 day only. And here we can see all the consolidated reports and logs. We can view the log file. We can view the consolidated reports and logs. And if you want to see the performance log, we can see that as well. But our major concerns comes to the output file. So if I kind of look at the data changes audit, let's download this file. So it'll open an HTML file for me. So it'll tell me what changes are happening within the workers. So currently we have 0 workers in here. Diagnostic changes. So diagnostic changes gives me the extract summary. So it says 385 workers. Changes detected, included in an extract, no. Has errors, no. Worker ID and output file. So which file in the output sets is it part of? Like you have from message audit PTN 1-1. So it's letting you know that it is 1 dash star.zip. Here you can see 3 dash star.zip. But as this person was not included, it didn't show any changes. If I look at the worker effective stack XML, so I can open an XML file in Excel as well. It's showing the ID, the time and date stamp, related time and date stamp, all the values that we selected in the integration parameters. Inclusion condition 0 and 1 includes all the changes, so on. So unfortunately, as my GMS tenant is not up and running, I would not be able to show you all the data and changes that are happening within this particular integration. But we will run the integration again in our next session, and we will go through each and every changes that happens. How do we get the full file and how do we get the change file? But just to give you an idea as to how we should run and set up an integration and look at the output files, especially this audit changes or data changes, really helps you figure out, okay, which workers were included, what has changed in those workers. Because as currently 0 workers are included for one reason or the other, we are unable to find those. So let me see if any of the integrations ran successfully. I may have the data of changes in there. This is not going to help. Okay, so we will look at our integrations details for the output for the changes once we have access back to our tenant. So we just launched an integration system for the first time, and the core connector, the worker core connector detects changes to the worker data by monitoring a transaction log. So when you set up the integration system, you select which business process and transaction types to which the integration system should subscribe. Workday recommends that if you're not sure if the integration system should be subscribed to a given transaction or business process type, you should not exclude it. So what do they mean by that? So what they mean is when you have all these services available, like these are enabled and some of them are disabled in this, but you may have a longer list of service. So if you don't know about any of the services, don't exclude it from your integration until or unless you specifically know that you want to exclude that service from your integration. Let me try one more time while we are discussing the slide deck. So in our next session, we'll look at the worker changes, change detection, transaction logs, how we set them up. So when we set up the integration system, we can select which business process and transaction types to which the integration should subscribe to. And those were the list that I mentioned here in your integration system service. These are the services that I was referring to. So if you're not sure, keep the services there. So Workday uses a very complex algorithm to determine which changes to capture. They are based on which changes should be detected. A change is made in the system and the integration is launched. So keeping these three values with your transaction logs, it keeps a very close track on when it's sending the change file, and it's accurate to the core. The algorithm works very well, and the change detection and the change file is absolutely accurate when Workday is sending it out. Unless we have any issues in the configuration of our integration, the change detection process by Workday integrations is spot on. So the transaction log service enables your integration system to subscribe to events that take place in Workday. So when you're running an integration and you have enabled transaction log service, which should be right here, the last service that you see here, Wiki effective stack performance. Oh, this is a performance log. It should have a transaction log here as well. Transaction log service is optional, but it's not enabled. Maybe that could be the reason why it's giving us errors. Let me give it one more shot. Okay, it's behaving a bit. Let's see. So this option enables your integration to first identify a relevant population of workers that have had subscribed transaction logs, and then evaluate the data for those workers. If disabled, your integration first extracts all the data, then they evaluates for data changes. Using this option can adversely affect your performance. So transaction logs is quite helpful when you're working with change files. So when configuring the integration transaction log, you have the following options available. Subscribe to all business process, subscribe to business process type, accepts, subscribes to all transaction type, subscribe to transaction type, accept, or subscribe to specific transaction types. So let me show you while this integration is running in the background. Oh, it has completed. Good. Let's see if we have any. Oh, still zero worker details. So we can go to integration system. Configure integration services. And here are your subscription details. If you want to subscribe to specific transaction types, like say business processes, you can select your business process, or you can subscribe to all business process. Or you can do an exclusion that, okay, give me all the business processes, but include these 3 business process details in my changes, for example. Or subscribe to all transaction types or excerpts. And then these are the external endpoints details. If you have a URL, if you need to send it to a specific location, like for notification, username, password, and verify password. This is for an external system. So when you need to push the notification to an external system, where you can give the URL, the notification username, password, and verify the password, and use deployed end service point. This is when you have a third-party system or a vendor system where you need to send the notifications into the system that, okay, you have launched or successfully completed this integration. So enable the transaction log service, then configure the transaction log service, launch the integration system. So we're having challenge with number 3, launching the integration system. And the sequence generator, like if you remember when we have it, when we discussed the EIB outbound, for the file name, we had tags that we created, like dynamic file names. Similarly, for integration sequence generator, we can have a sequence number attached to each of our integration run. In addition to the date and time, in our file name, we can have a sequence generator in our output files. So integration sequence generator enables your integration to generate a unique sequenced file name each time it runs. When a file name sequence generator has been configured, the system will ignore the static output file name attributes, and it will replace it with your sequence generator or add values to your sequence generator from your sequence generator to your file name. To create the sequence generator, select the integration system, configure integration sequence generator related actions. So if I go here, integration systems, and then configure sequence generator. Why do I not have that option? Because it's not enabled here. So worker effective changes. So we have enabled this. So now we should have an option to configure our sequence generator as well. So integration systems. And now we have our configured sequence generator. So in order to set up a sequence generator, we can set up the sequence increment value, like increment by 1. If I need to add any padding, say 00001, then I can do that. Now, the sequence ID format is quite interesting. So I can say AMU, which is Alma Mater University, worker effective changes integration. And after that, say I want to have SEQ, which is a sequence number, then dash or underscore. Then I want to have, say, year, month, date, and time. Correct. So year, month, then for date, it is day in the year, or if I want to have the date, which is DD. And then I want to have the time as well. So hours and minutes. Say HH. Then minutes is in M is in lowercase. Say CSV file. Now the example will automatically update that what am I trying to do. So it says AMU wiki, then sequence number is 0, year, date, year, month, date, and then okay, I think we did make a mistake here. So we have our year, then our month, then our date. So date format should be day in the year, day in the month, sorry. So it should be DD. So that was a 265th day in the year. So now it's giving the date, and then say after date, I would like to replace this with a colon. So here you can see the live example of whatever changes you're making in the sequence ID format. You can see it right here. Say I would like to have padding, say 3. So it'll add 3 zeros to the padding, or say I want to have 4. So it'll add 4 zeros as padding. Restart number at say 1. So every year I want to have a fresh sequence number restart because I have the date, month, year, time as well. Say my last sequence was used, say 247. So here you can see that the padding has changed, or the values has changed as per our configuration of the sequence generator. So this is changing. Make sense? So you press OK. And now the output file name would be amu_weki_. The next integration would start, say 002, then it'll give the year, month, date, and then dash hour minutes .csv. The following options are available in integration sequence generator, like last number used, last use date, increment by, restart every, restart based on time zone, restart at number, padding with zeros, or format syntax.